Hello, good morning, and welcome to Newday Saturday edition, live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7. We're also on our various internet pages, 3news.com, on our Facebook page, TV3 News, and also on GhanaWeb.com. This is your factual, propaganda-free, and intellectually stimulating Saturday morning news analysis show. Once again, this is Newday Saturday edition. My name is Abna Tibi. As usual, we'll be running from now till just about 10 minutes to the hour of 10, where conversations will be brought to a close. We will be running through some interesting topics that have made the headlines during the week. Quickly, I'll run you through these topics. We'll start off with some corruption allegations against the two deputy chiefs of staff. Now, Saturday last week, you do recall that the NPP had its national delegates conference in Cape Coast, the first since their electoral success at the 2016 polls. Now, at the conference, the president reiterated his commitment to the fight against corruption and invited anyone with evidence of corruption against any of his appointees to make such evidence available, and that he would cause the matter to be investigated by the law enforcement agencies. Now, that evening, not too long after the president had reiterated his commitment to the fight against corruption, social media erupted with a nebulous allegation against the two deputy chiefs of staff by the musician and a known NPP sympathizer, A+. Now, he posted a comment on his Facebook wall alleging that the two deputy chiefs of staff were, quote, thieves and corrupt. Now, this was followed by a response by one of the affected persons, also on Facebook, and he categorically denied the allegations in the strongest terms and also decried the action of A+, saying that it had the potential of distracting the focus of government. Now, A+ then came back with a series of responses, and thereafter, news then broke that A+ had been invited by the police CID for questioning. Now, the CID also invited Mr. Kenyan, who you would recall had also earlier on made similar allegations about some appointees of the government. On the show this morning, we shall be looking at what has transpired so far, including the controversy whether or not there were actual invitations from the police CID to have Mr. Kenyan actually interrogated or questioned. Also, we would want to see how this developing story would play out. Also up for discussion is the SSNIT $72 million software saga. Now, this saga continues. We may all have heard by now, or we all know by now, how an initial contract sum of $34 million transmutated into $72 million, and still with the potential to grow even some more. Now, the devil, they say, is in the detail, and indeed, we cringe even the more when more details, repulsive details, I must add, keep emerging day in, day out. Now, this week, we heard of the intriguing details about the qualifications of the IT manager at SSNIT. We are told that he secured his position through fake qualifications. Well, this matter is up for investigations, and he has currently threatened to sue SSNIT for unlawful termination because the SSNIT board actually came out with a decision to sack him as he was on interdiction pending investigations. Now, we shall be looking at the SSNIT situation, which has now become what I refer to as the gift that keeps on giving. Every week, we hear something new coming out of this situation. We'll be looking at this some more. And then there's a resignation of the Deputy Agric Minister over some tribal comments that he made. We will be looking at this situation and try to understand what exactly it is. Is this the setting of a new standard in respect of public officers who, over the years have sought to exploit our diversity as a people? Is this the new benchmark that we'll be measuring public officers by? And we'll also touch on the Kenyan elections and the outcome of the Supreme Court election petition. Now, the Kenyan Supreme Court yesterday ruled or gave its judgment in respect of the election petition that had been lodged by the opposition in that country. The Supreme Court declared null and void the election results from the 8th of August elections that were held in that country. Now, we shall be looking at this feat by the Kenyan Supreme Court and its impact on democracy on the African continent, particularly the role of the judiciary as vanguards of our democracy. Last but not least, when we do have the time, we'll touch on the free SHS policy, which the president launched this week. How far are we going to go into this? How practical is this policy as we move on with implementation? These are the topics we've lined up for today's discussions. It promises to be interesting and, as usual, stimulating. We encourage you to stay tuned. We'll take a break. When we come back, I'll introduce the panel and the conversations will start. You're watching Newday, Saturday edition. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Newday Saturday edition, and we're live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, also live on our Facebook page, TV3 News, and on GhanaWeb.com, also on 3news.com. I will quickly introduce the panelists for today's discussions, and we'll delve straight into the topics we've lined up for today's conversations. From my extreme left, we have Mr. Joe Jackson. He is a finance person, a director of business operations at Daylex Finance. Next is Mr. Abraham Amaliba. He's a lawyer, also a member of the NDC communications team and legal team. Next is Professor Clement Jidonu. He's the president of the Accra Institute of Technology. And last but not least, we have the Honorable George Anda. He's the MP for Ewutu Senya West constituency and also the Deputy Minister of Communication. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome. It's good to have you.
Good morning to fellow panelists, and good morning to your viewers.
Great.
And listeners as well.
Right, sure. We'll start off with what's trending all over the world now, which is the outcome of the Supreme Court's ruling or judgment in the Kenyan elections. And it's been described as a major feat, a precedent-setting verdict or judgment, which is supposed to consolidate democracy on the African continent, and also we'll be looking at that. Now, obviously, this is something that you'd say has, made the Kenyan electoral management process or system, or if you like, democracy as a whole in the country, you would think perhaps that it's matured, given the background of Kenya 2007-2008 civil war coming out of, another election dispute, and they also had their own election petition in 2013, didn't go well for the opposition, but now we have this result. Clearly, this is the way to go. There's no backsliding on the part of Kenya. I'll start with you, Mr. Jackson, on this.
Well, I can't help but agree with you, but I will also caution that if you look at the run-up to this, that first the IT director was killed, his assistant was also killed. And the fact that there's when you look at the substance why the Supreme Court, it was clearly a case of IT fraud of the most despicable kind, and there was no real even attempt to hide what they were doing. It was just plain simple fraud. And this morning I was reading up on the instances that were cited. It was shameful. So I worry for Kenya, not because the Supreme Court has been able to stand up, but because there's an undertone of violence that sits there. And so what we should all be asking ourselves is this: the Supreme Court has done its bit. How do we make sure that these incidences of EC officials being killed, violence, etc., does not occur again? Because it's easy for the Supreme Court to make a ruling, but there are lots of issues that have to be addressed. They have gone for a digital electoral system, which places a huge load on the IT system. And yet they've managed to kill 2 IT directors. Well, the IT director and his assistant. So who's next? Mm. And what happens? How do we make sure that, number one, we don't have the violence that has happened? And so I think that this is the time for well-meaning persons of influence to step into the situation and help out in the in this election. Obviously, people will be looking like our own Kofi Annan, who was there some time ago already. His name has been mentioned on social media, that he needs to come back and help them sort this out. And they've been given a 60-day limit.
Right.
So, on one hand, we're excited about what they've been able to achieve, but we're very worried as to what is going to happen over the next few days.
Right. Now, picking up from where you left off here, raising the issue about, yes, there's a success part which ought to be celebrated, but there's that other side which we need to be concerned about. I'll move on to Mr. Maliba here and bring in the part, the Uhuru Kenyatta's reaction or his speech in response to this. I picked up something that I find quite intriguing, and perhaps it ties in with the issue about the concern which you, Mr. Jackson, you're raising here. He said, and I think I'll quote, he says, millions of Kenyans queued, made their choice, and 6 people have decided that they will go against the will of the people. Mr. Maliba, as a lawyer, what do you make of this statement? Making it seem as though the 6 people there are pretty much, have no business making that kind of verdict or that judgment that they did. Because we do know that those judges constitute the highest court of the land, Kenya. And for them to make that ruling, it was a constitutional mandate for them to go through that whole process in any case. So what do you make of that statement? And should we be concerned, just as Mr. Jackson is raising issues about the need for us to be wary about what is happening, the underlying elements or factors?
Well, let me say good morning to your viewers and listeners alike. I think that he stated the obvious being that you have Kenyans queuing to vote. I think the turnout was around 79% or more, but the opposition disagreed with the results. And don't forget, even Odinga said he had no confidence in the Supreme Court. I don't know where you got to know that. When he filed, he said he had no confidence in the Supreme Court.
Obviously coming from his experience.
Exactly. So he himself said he had no confidence in the Supreme Court. I saw him laughing when the verdict was
of course, it went in his favor.
Now, the issue is whether or not what the judges did was right. And in his view, in Kenyatta's view, that decision, and I'm quoting his lawyer, was an unwise judicial decision and a political verdict. That was what the lawyer said. Will you begrudge him? You won't. Because he's a man who was declared a winner, and 2 weeks later, he has been declared the vanquished. But that is not all what he said.
Not necessarily the vanquished. It was.
He has lost out.
Yes, he's lost out. Not necessarily.
He's lost out.
They questioned.
No, he's not in the same position again. Now, that's not all that he said. He also said that just as how he has taken the decision, he calls on all Kenyans to also be calm. And that's a direct answer to Thompson's issue of maybe Jackson issues of...
but doesn't he raise the issue about rhetoric as against, what is actually the reality? Because here is a case where he's calling for calm, but you hear from his, his response that there's some deep, there's a state of turbulence within himself.
There's nothing wrong for you to say, I disagree with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can also get it wrong.
That's right. But when you go make reference
to... You can disagree with them and
justices.
say, I respect their decision. And that's what he did.
But when you go make reference to the justices of the Supreme Court, as some 6 people sitting there have gone and, pretty much like overturned the will of the people, forgetting also that, or making it seem as though the 6 people are outside the context of constitutionalism. But they are part of it, aren't they?
No, you should know that we are talking about an issue where people went to vote. These are a group of people. Then you also have another group of people, 6, who have also said it is not the case. So what he's simply saying is that the 6 people have overturned the decision of the majority of Kenyans. And that is right. But he also went further to say, look, However, let's be calm. I think that what happened in Kenya is the first of its kind. It's never happened in Africa. I don't know other parts. My vision is around Africa, where the Electoral Commission has declared a winner, and then it has been reversed. This is the first of its kind. In my view, it inures to both sides in two ways. The Kenyatta group will say that, look, let's now show to the people of Kenya that we actually won this election. And so maybe in 60 days' time, they are going to come out in droves. Then for the Odinga side, they are the ones jubilating. And if care is not taken, they may even forget that there's going to be a 60 days election coming.
Right.
So, in my view, I'm thinking that, look, let's go back to the drawing boards. Kenya is bigger than each of these leaders. Kenya has experienced some violence in the last two elections, the previous two elections. This is the time for Kenyans and the leaders to show leadership and say that, look, this time we are going to show to the whole world that our democracy has come of age and allow the process to roll out smoothly for the 60 days election to happen. If it's the will of the people that Kenyatta should still be the president, he will be. If it's the will of the people that it will turn the other way around, it will be. And Kenya will be the winner.
Right. Yeah, quickly.
I would like to
quickly,
make a quick
yes.
interjection. Let's be clear. The Supreme Court didn't say that A lost or A won. The Supreme Court said the process was not right. And you cannot rely on the results that came out of the process.
Hence, they nullified.
They're nullified.
Results, right?
It's not to say that 6 people overturned the will of the people. They said the process by which you determined the will of the people was wrong and was flawed and was clearly fraudulent. And that is what, say, rerun the election so that this time we can know the true will of the people. So I have problems with his statement, that's Uhuru Kenyatta, saying that 6 people somewhere sat down and overturned the will of so many millions of Kenyans. That's not what happened. They said, the court said clearly that the process by which you came out with the will of the people was fraudulent and flawed.
Obviously, that was coming from somebody who was pained with the outcome of that, judicial process. So definitely, you'd expect such a reaction from him. But isn't it interesting that that election involved the presidential and the Senate, but it was just the presidential election results that were nullified? What about the Senate? What does that say of the whole, inquisition, if you like?
Because,
I would want to, okay, quickly. And then
I said yesterday that the ruling of the Supreme Court would definitely impact on the parliamentary elections and other they had about 4 elections at the same day. So definitely, what process was used to arrive at Kenyatta being the president? If that process is flawed, it's the same process that was also used to arrive at the parliamentary elections. So, what is the consequence of that?
Right.
Does it also mean that those ones too will be annulled?
No, but to the extent that the Supreme Court was explicit in its ruling, which says that the presidential elections have been nullified.
Yeah, but I'm saying that it doesn't wash, because it's the same process. How come that the same process will lead to a satisfactory outcome, and the same process will also lead to an outcome which is unsatisfactory?
Right, which is my question, yes, but Honorable.
Thank you very much. Before I comment, let me just remind all Ghanaians that in the next couple of days, free ACHS is coming up. Free textbooks, free school uniforms, the promises that His Excellency... I
thought there will be a topic on that.
His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo gave to Ghanaians. We are delivering on those promises. Let me also take the opportunity to wish all our Muslim brothers and sisters a happy Ramadan. Abna, I think that sometimes we need to read to understand what the issues are. And when we get into a discussion without having the proper background, then we are not doing ourselves much good. If you read the ruling of the Supreme Court, and you understand what backing that they had in the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, this becomes a clear issue. The fact that the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya makes provision that after an election, there's a period for which petitions should be dealt with. During that period, no one is going to be sworn in as. And I don't think that the framers of the Constitution, excuse my French, were sleeping when they did that. And I believe that everybody who goes into that political contest fully understands what the issue is. As far as I understand, the issue was that there were 6 ballots given out that day. Now, if you combine the total of the other ballots, if you sum it up, and you compare it to the total of the presidential ballots, it doesn't wash. Okay, so there's a missing number, okay, which cannot be accounted for. And that is why the Supreme Court is saying that the process was flawed. The fact that they accept the other 5 processes and they are challenging the presidential doesn't mean that the 5 processes don't make sense. Okay, you go into the ballot process and you are given 6 ballots. One is for presidential, the others are for the other governors or whatever you want to call them. In the total pot for the presidential, it should tally with the total number of ballots that were issued for the presidential. The difference would be Small's ballot, okay? Or if there's an extra, then there's what they call the overvoting or stray ballots that they refer to. Now, if those stray ballots are more than the total ballots that were issued plus the total ballots that have been counted, then obviously there's a problem with the election.
In any case, there was no petitions put out for the Senate.
So I'm surprised that my brother Maliba will be saying that the process is the judgment of the Supreme Court is flawed just because they didn't make reference to the other balloting process. It doesn't quite wash with me.
I think to the extent that it's the same system that declared.
Maliba, if you understand, this is my time. This is my
you
time.
refer to me unless you
respond
decide to withdraw your reference to me. I'll give you the chance. I have to react. I asked the question. She raised it, and I asked the question: how would that impact on the parliamentary elections if the same processes were used to arrive at electing the parliamentarians? I asked the question.
Can I react?
Are you done with your response?
Yes, so I asked the question. It was like I raised an issue. Now, if you say that the tabulation...
Okay, so you clarified that point.
The tabulation is what was the issue. If you say that the tabulation is what was the issue...
Do you want to take over the hosting of the program?
From the presidential elections,
yes.
If you say that was an issue, but you cannot find such issues in the presidential elections, that is your point.
Fine, so you've responded.
That is your point.
Good. Now, Honorable, carry on, please.
That is your point.
Thank you very much, and I hope that...
But I have every right to raise the issue. How does that impact on the presidential
you made a point, yes.
Parliamentary elections?
True, you made your point.
Because even in this country,
yes, please
when
allow
we went for the
Honorable
petition,
to carry
the
on.
same thing happened.
Please allow the Honorable to carry on, yes.
I hope that I'm not rudely interrupted going forward.
Please carry
on. Clearly, there are 2 things. The court would go into a matter when there's a petition presented. And I am not sure that in this case there was a petition presented
in respect of the Senate.
In respect of the others. Okay. Number 2, the point that I'm making, it's obvious. You go into the balloting process, okay? You are giving 5 ballots. There's no provision in the Constitution or there's no law that says that you're obliged to vote for all 5. You understand? But there's a total number of ballots that are released. There's a total number of ballots that are supposed to be in every box. If you vote for all 6, you expect that the numbers will be the same. Now, within one pot or within one ballot, if the total number of ballots that are there, okay, is over and above the ballots that were issued, and then we are saying that, or they are saying that this is because the other people that were supposed to vote in the other elections put their ballots in the first one, and so they are stray ballots. But the total number that is there, it doesn't account. When you do the mathematics, it doesn't work. Okay, so then obviously there's a flaw in the system. It's either that, like my brother Joe had said, through the the IT process, somehow some number has been added from somewhere.
But there's also, speaking of that process, there's this allegation or, speculation going on that there was a certain formula that was keyed into the system, which would automatically make Uhuru Kenyatta, win by a certain number.
So that is why, based on the logic, based on the fact that something is not making sense, that is why the Supreme Court are saying that, listen, something.
Everything was irregular.
They believe that there's some amount of irregularity in here. Now, that said, so that we understand the basis that the Supreme Court have made a decision, I'm on the same page with Joe. I'm on the same space with Joe when he says that the comments by President Uhuru Kenyatta were most unfortunate. Indeed, for you to say that 6 people are deciding to overturn the decision of the people of Kenya, it's most unfortunate because, again, this was done under the provision of the Constitution. I mean, they are doing what the framers of the Constitution have given them the power to do. So it's not like they've decided to sit somewhere and then overturn. And you are the former president. You probably could be the president going forward. So when you start making such comments, then it's really not necessary. However, the balanced side, which he said that there should be the call for peace, the call for calmness within 60 days, the will of the people would be demonstrated. I mean, that was a positive thing.
Right.
But the beginning, the first statement that he made was most
quite
unfortunate.
unfortunate,
I mean,
right.
we all are appealing to our brothers and sisters in Kenya to be guided by the rule of law. We are appealing to the political parties to roping their supporters to focus on campaigning, and we hope that the Independent Electoral Commission would have the frame of mind, would have the right resources to be able to deliver another election within 60 days.
Very well. Now, Professor Jidonu, I would want you to look at the issue about, civil society organizations there or observer missions there and their role. We are told from the news reports that the parallel tally system of the observer missions endorsed the official results. Now, that's another intriguing part for me, because if there was, that much of a widespread irregularity as indicated by the court, and we know that the parallel tally system is there to ensure a certain purpose or to, achieve a certain purpose, how do we then see a system where that we are told is flawed, yet the parallel tally system pretty much endorsed the outcome or the output of the flawed system? What does that say of the parallel tally system by the observer missions themselves?
Okay. Thank you, Abner. Good morning to your viewers, and I want to join my colleague to congratulate, wish our Muslim brothers a wonderful Eid. I think, Abner, in your introduction, 2 teams ran through the topics you wanted to treat today. One is corruption. I said 2 C's. One is corruption, the other C is computers. It happened that in the Kenya case, both are playing out. We will, in fact, probably accept the free SHS, that we don't have computers there. But if you,
Oh, but that
Right,
has
the-
no, I know.
Definitely.
I'm going to talk about that later on.
Right.
So in the Kenya case, the computers and the corruptions are playing out. Now, direct answer to your question. Yes, even our own Mahama was the leader of the Commonwealth team of observers. You see, what happened in Kenya is not surprising. When you look at a lot of elections took place this year all over the world. But when you listen to BBC and then they said the election had been contested, I bet you it had to be an African one. Election took place in India, nobody contested anything. Election took place in South America, nobody contested anything. For the developed part of the world, people don't contest things there. They just vote. It looks as in Africa, getting to power is now becoming a life or death issue. We have to come to power by all means. And if we don't come to power, then you will not come to power. As if the election is the thing, not what they do after elections. That is what matters to develop our country. And it's becoming more and more serious. It's only in Africa that you have hundreds and hundreds of observers showing up for our elections. They don't show up at other places. Hundreds. And I'm sure the Kenya one, there might be a couple of thousands down there just to observe that election. And they all passed that election as clean. Yes, you see, what happened at their blind side. Blind side, which means that they were at the police station, they are observers of the election. The day of the election, they did some few things before. Some of them still stay behind after the elections. But what they were observing is the conduct of the election. That's my understanding. On the day, they go around the country and see whether things are fair. They do that, and then they prepare a report. When listening to the Supreme Court, what they said, a lot of those things happen after the ballot. Because what actually saved the situation now is the physical tally, which shows that, yes, this guy voted, this is the number of people who voted in this area. That is what they are using to compare to the computer output. And it's not tallying with the computer output. That's why they're saying that, look, there's something fishy going on here.
Because they're saying the electronic system that had been overseen by the Director of Communications or ICT, who was killed, broke down.
Well, no, it's not that. It's not that you broke down. It is somebody who hacked the system. You see, computers, the thing about computers is that don't use it if you don't know what you're doing, or it will mess you up big time. You see, if the Kenyans have gone with the physical tally, they will not have this problem. You see, but when you introduce computers into our system here, and you get all kind of funny people around, they can really play games with it big time. That's what happened. Okay? The tallies from the police stations were okay. But when they start transmitting them, then that's where the problem started. So I don't think the Commonwealth observation team, the AU, I mean, all those people who show up to observe the election could have actually spotted that, unless they actually go into the computer system and say, look, let's tally these things out. This thing happened after they have finished their part. But that shows that all these observer missions coming to our shore these days is no more business as usual, especially when you bring in a computer for the tallying. You must have your own expert which also monitor that. It's not enough for you to come on the voting day
to just observe the
this thing and then give a fair. We have some adjective they use. Fair, what?
Free and fair.
Free and fair, transparent, and they use all the beautiful adjectives. They all use it this time around. So I don't know how they were doing now. Well, for our own former president, say, oh, did we got it wrong? I don't think they got it wrong. What they observe is what they observe, and that's what they reported on, not on the computer system. Now, coming back to the real issue of Kenya now, you see, Hara have been protesting about elections since he have been involved in politics. Every election he protested, every election. And also, Kenya politics is very, very tribal. No question about that. And it will continue to be tribal. The Kikuyus vote for this party, the Lualuos also vote for this party. When you look at the jubilation, it's in one particular tribal area. The other part in Martina, they are mourning. So I think this is another aspect of our politics, which is not going to go away. So I think that with this new idea about bringing computer to our system, it could happen to us. I'm sure people are seeing that in Ghana and say, well, it might have happened, only that we didn't know. It could happen to us down here that once you bring in the computer into the system, people can easily fiddle with it, and then we get some funny results at the end of the day. You recall, during our own election here, there was some hula baloo about transmission. Some people went to some computer company somewhere and tried to check things out because they suspect that such a thing could have happened. So I personally think that going forward, and as African nations, I'm pretty sure tomorrow if there's another election in Africa, they're going to be objection. In fact, this Kenya election, after 60 days election, I bet you when it's finished, there will be a protest that, look, the result is not fair.
Great.
Yes. So basically, I think we need to probably roll back a little bit as Africans, that we tend to think that we invented democracy. And democracy is equal to election. That if we don't get this one right, it's everything. And the politicians also will not leave us alone. At the end of the day, they think that this election is everything. Either we get in or the other guys cannot get in. And at the end of the day, they get up doing all kind of funny things. I also want to believe, I may be wrong, that I don't think Uhuru Kenyatta is the one who figured out the results. It might be people who did it for him.
Well, the court was explicit that
it was visibly
nothing in particular about
yes.
him. No misconduct cited.
Very good, but he was
him,
visibly shocked on the ruling. You find out that he used some terms which were not, I mean, presidential statement-like. I think he referred to them as what? Is it corrupt? No, crooks. He used the word like that. So I personally think that, you see, that is the way he says it. Either he's a president or is there any other word. So I think that our politicians must also know that this is all about electing you guys to run our affairs, to take us to the next level. But it's look as if it's getting to that power is everything. And they do everything to get into that power. For me, that is the worrying thing. And it only happens in Africa.
Right. Now, I'd want, Mr. Maliba, if you could touch on, the bit about the election observer missions, because it's important. They play a key role in elections. And Prof has raised the issue about, the scope of election missions or observer missions moving forward, not just limiting it to the conduct at the various polling stations, but also perhaps now, if elections are to be conducted electronically, then perhaps the observer missions would also begin to go into those areas. What do you think of that quickly? And then we move into the issue about the 60 days they have to do the rerun, financial implications thereof, and then the chances of Raila Odinga.
I've heard people ridiculing the various observer missions. John Kerry's mission, Mbeki's mission, Mohammed's mission, and there was even an EU mission. There's even the East African bloc mission. Now, by their name, they are only to report what they have observed. They are not an election investigation mission. They are called election observer mission. So most of the time, when they even come around, they don't even talk to people who are at the polling stations. They just observe and then write their report. Now, this issue of hacking or the transmission of the election results are matters that were so sophisticated and technical in nature that the mission did not observe it and so couldn't have reported on it. And so when you bring up a matter such as, the elections were hacked or have been hacked, because their mission is not to investigate, you may not even have amongst them an IT expert. You may not. But if going forward, we are beginning to see things of this nature. In our own elections, they were here on Christ about that. He's also talked about the fact that there's a need to broaden the
scope of
the scope of the mission to also include the ability, because in the Kenyan elections, you realize that Odinga and his people even presented evidence to the various missions. And they said, this is beyond us. So if the cry is that we should expand the scope for them to be able to also investigate some of these things, then so be it. But what would that be doing to the sovereignty of a country? That a country has its security intelligence, that a sovereign country has in place. It's not as if security and law and order has broken down. Then you have people coming from other countries, foreign countries, beginning to investigate matters within that country.
But is it investigation or observation? Because it becomes investigation after the fact when something has come up and then you're going into it.
That's what I'm saying. That
but this is to observe the process. And now, mind you, the process now includes the electronic system. So you can't divorce the electronic system from the manual.
So that's what I'm saying, that to what extent would countries allow foreigners?
Then they shouldn't even do the manual observation then, because it is still a process, the whole electoral process. Then they shouldn't. If they are going to be kept out of the electronic part of it, then why, because it raises issues about sovereignty.
I'm saying that to what extent would countries allow that to happen? But if they allow that to happen, that is a way of broadening their scope. But with governments, we just sitting under this air-conditioned room and talking. Let's also look at the resistance. I'm talking about how would governments allow that, would sitting governments allow that people go into those areas? So much as we want the scope to be broadened, let's also see how
the practicality of it.
The practicality of it will be. And that is where I'm raising the forward flags.
Right, sure. Quickly, we need to move on to look at the corruption allegation and all, but I want us to touch on Mr. Jackson and Honorable. Quickly, let's just do some, you know, I don't know if it's hypotheticals, but let's look at the chances of Raila Odinga. Does this give him any real chances? Has he been given a lifeline?
Well, I mean, I think it would be politically incorrect for me to sit here and take sides on this matter. But I believe that as far as the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya is concerned, that this seems to have opened up. So anybody that the people of Kenya truly believe is going to bring back change in their lifestyle, is going to bring back improvement in their standard of living, that person has a chance, with the support of God and the people of Kenya, with the right electoral system, to become a leader in Kenya.
Right. Mr. Jackson.
Well, it does definitely will give him a chance, because what it says is that the results were flawed and the results went in another direction. So he has a chance. Whether that is enough for him to win we will be seeing in the days ahead. But he definitely has a chance, and it's always in this could be a time where he could press on and use the momentum from the results to improve his performance.
Within 60 days.
Within 60 days. Within 60 days. Except that there's a sense also that the Kenyan society is very polarized. And so it's not, people are not going to change their votes. Now, what will happen is I hope in 60 days, we'll get a true sense of what the will of the Kenyan people was like.
Very well. Well, we'll just put an end to that discussion and move on to Ghana and what's happening in Ghana. Lots of interesting things. We're going to start off with the Ghanaian situation, looking at the corruption allegations leveled against the two deputy chiefs of staff. And this came last Saturday after the NPP Congress, or conference, National Delegates Conference in Cape Coast. Now, so this, you know, very well-known sympathizer of the NPP, A+, on his Facebook wall put out, you know, some statement and alleged that the two people in the heart, or at the heart of the matter, the two deputy chiefs of staff, are thieves and corrupt, using his words. Those were the allegations he put there. No specific details, nothing to substantiate. He just put it out there. Now, I'm wondering, yes, there's a need to fight corruption, but do we need to go down this way? Do we need to just make such wild allegations there, not, you know, supported with any evidence? And I'm saying this against the backdrop of what the president had earlier on said at Cape Coast, where he says people making such allegations should better have evidence to back what they say. Can we fight this corruption, this menace, by putting out such, you know, vague, nebulous allegations, and on social media for that matter? Honorable.
Thank you very much. It's great that you've made reference to the statement that His Excellency the President made in Cape Coast last week Saturday, that he's committed to fight corruption. He has instructed the security and investigative agencies to investigate every allegation of corruption against any member of his administration.
Right.
And I think that that is a very, very bold statement and a clear position that His Excellency the President has given in his demonstration of his fight against corruption, and that he's not going to be tolerant of any of these wrong governance issues coming up. It's also interesting that His Excellency, the former Vice President, President J. Kufuor, had said that as a political party, we should be circumspect in the kind of things that we say outside. That if they would tend to give the party a bad image, especially if these are not true or if these are not based on facts, then the party is going to face a situation where we're going to spend a lot of time trying to defend or clarify some of these issues. So for me, I think that we should stick to the facts. I believe that, like you have said yourself, my very good friend Kwame A+, after he put out those things, he subsequently went on radio and he apologized for using the wrong channel for these allegations. I'm also aware that the police CID have called him up for investigation. I'm not too sure whether up to now any evidence has been provided. But let us give
we
the
do know
CID.
that he didn't go.
Well, he didn't go, but maybe he has found a way to stake his evidence. But I'm saying that as far as I sit here, I'm not aware of any evidence being provided to support his allegation of corruption. And indeed, even if you read the post that he put out there, it's very difficult to actually comprehend exactly what he was trying to say. The response from the Deputy Chief of Staff, I believe that was quite mature. He didn't go into the gutter with him. He expressed his position that A+ was a very talented person.
But speaking of that response, sorry to cut you, do you think that was appropriate to have gone, to have responded to A+'s statement also on Facebook? Given, I'm looking at the propriety of that.
You see, the thing is that the tone of his response was very mature. It didn't go the same route that the allegations came. It was devoid of any insult. But I believe that sometimes silence is good, but sometimes silence is responding is also right, depending on the tone of the response. And he just clarified the facts. And again, he said that he was going to submit himself to the CID investigations. He was willing to submit himself to the CID investigations. And I think that is the most important thing. Let us allow the systems and the structures that are in place to work. Now, this brings me to one other allegation that has been made in terms of the national ID system. I mean, there's on the graphic front page on on Thursday,
right.
It also showed the pictures of the images of the two deputy chiefs of staff, and then the Minister of Communication. Now, I want to provide the facts to this matter. I'm sure we're all aware that IMS, which is one of the companies, a Ghanaian company, had an agreement with the National Identification Authority. Now, when we came into power, there was a technical committee that was set up by the Office of the Vice President. And the report of the technical committee came out clearly that, indeed, the agreement between IMS and the National Identification Authority was relevant. It was, and it was an effective way of making sure that we had the solution as far as having a national ID system in place was concerned. Now, let us also note that the National Identification Authority is not one of the agencies under the Ministry of Communication. It operates under the presidency. So there's absolutely no way that the Honorable MP for Ablekuma and Deputy and Minister of Communications, Honorable Asiedu-Dartey, could have influenced whoever it is that was going to be delivering on that job. And the letter was actually signed by the Chief of Staff. So I think that this allegation comes out of some lack of proper knowledge and some amount of ignorance of the system, of the process that was engaged. Obviously, the Ministry of Communications, just like other agencies like the National Health Authority, like the DVLA, NETA, are all interested stakeholders that participate in making sure that we have a robust and modern national ID system in place. So it's unfortunate that those statements were alleged to have been made. There's obviously no iota of truth in it. There's no way that it could have happened. It's my understanding that the person who made those allegations just yesterday on the platform has said that he didn't make those allegations. So let us wait for the CID.
So yet again, we have another, allegation coming out in respect of that. But you're saying clearly that there's no truth to that.
It can happen. I mean, it's like you telling me that I influence who comes into the who host the programs on TV3 when I have absolutely no control and no relationship with your production team. You understand? So it's like I said, it's most unfortunate, but it just goes back to the fact that we should all make sure that if we are going to start making these allegations, let us make sure that we have enough evidence to prove that whatever allegations that we are making are wrong.
Right.
I mean, don't go ahead and go and defame somebody's image and then later come back and say that, well, I didn't mean it, or I mean, it's the damage that would have been done would be tremendous. I mean,
okay.
So, well.
Right. I'll move on. On that note, it brings me to an issue here, which I have been wondering about, and that has to do with the reaction of the police CID. And looking at the case in point, which is the A+ and the 2 deputy chiefs of staff, we heard that the police CID called A+, and indeed, you know, Mr. Kennedy Japon, over these allegations. Again, the emphasis here is that these allegations are quite vague. No details whatsoever. Now, I'm looking at, and Mr. Maniba, I'm coming to you on this, please. I'm looking at the propriety of this. So, is the CID going to call anybody the minute they make any allegation? And how would that help the process? Indeed, yes, there's the need to fight corruption. But how do we do it in such a way that it's effective? Because if the police gets involved now only for a person to come and say, okay, well, I apologize, I don't have much, you know, evidence to substantiate or back this allegation. How serious are we with the fight against corruption?
Well, now, if it's alleged that an NDC appointee is corrupt, that one is corrupt. But if it's alleged that an MPP appointee is corrupt, it's now unfortunate. That's the new term. It's unfortunate.
And how did you come by that conclusion? Because
that's what he said. That it's unfortunate to say that his minister is engaged in acts of corruption. Now,
I think that the same way, in the same way as in the same way as you gave him the opportunity to butt into my segment or
you
my
want to
session.
respond?
I want to respond. I mean, I think
in 30 seconds, please.
I think that we should all be responsible in the way that we conduct ourselves on this program. I'm not too sure that I have said that if an NDC, if there's an allegation of corruption against an NDC person, it means that the person is corrupt, then it justifies whatever he's saying.
Right,
So Abraham, I have a lot of respect for you. I think that you should conduct yourself well.
I think it's only fair that
let us all enjoy giving the facts of the matter. We've finished the campaign. Let us respect each other on the platform. Thank you, sir.
I take exception to you saying that I'm misconducting myself. Anyway, now, how did we get to this point at all? I thought that I heard professors in this country, I heard church leaders, I even heard chiefs say that apart from the independence of Ghana, the good thing that has happened to Ghana is the election of Nana Akufo-Addo as president, and that we have saints and we have God-fearing people who have now taken over the reins of this government. I thought I heard that. And for the first time under the Fourth Republic, less than 6 months into a government's reign, we are hearing acts of corruption from no less a place than the Flagstaff House. I am shocked.
Allegations, by the way.
I'm saying we are hearing
acts. You said you're hearing acts of corruption, but it's alleged acts of corruption. Let's put it in perspective.
It is shocking. This is the first time that a new government has come, less than 6 months, we are hearing allegations of corruption in the Flagstaff House. That for me is shocking. You see, if you create a monster to eat up your opponent, and I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. If you create a monster to eat up your opponent, after the monster has finished eating up your opponent, because the monster is used to eating human flesh, it will turn on you. A+ used to accuse without evidence NDC appointees. He even sings, plays songs, compose songs for them. In this country, it's there, it's a fact. At that time, the MPP jumped onto it, latched onto it for their campaign. They never told A+ to give evidence to show that these persons were actually corrupt. For me, I know that the name of the game is evidence. I know I know. From day one. And I've been saying that, where is the evidence? At the time you said NDC appointees were corrupt, where is the evidence? Provide the evidence. I know that the bottom line is evidence. And so if today we are being told that A+ and Kenyan should provide evidence, I thought that should have been long ago. That should have been the standard.
But that is the standard.
According to
That
MPP?
is the standard.
According to MPP?
No, you're not looking at parties.
I've just told you how they latch onto A+'s accusation of the NDC appointees. I've told you. And when they latch onto it and used it against the NDC, they never said A+, provide evidence so that we can either go to the market with it or not. But the monster is eating them. And now, for me, I think that we've come full cycle. Persons, they've done it to the NDC, they've done it to them. So I think it's now 1-1 draw. We all feel it the same way. So now that we feel it the same way, we should now all sit back and say that the name of the game is evidence. As President Mahama said, as Professor Mill said, as Professor John Kufuor said, and as the current president has said. Even the current president. Didn't he also, as an opposition leader, allege that the Kasua interchange was
I thought you had settled on the 1-1 draw. We're
you don't want
moving
me to
forward.
go there.
Not that we don't want to. I think.
Didn't he also say that the Rich Hospital was
That's
overflated?
fine. Yes,
Didn't he say that NDC government used 10 million cedis or whatever to do diaries when there was nothing like that? But it's good that the foot that used to wear the shoe is no more wearing that shoe. It is now on a new foot. The shoe is now on a new foot. So I agree that A+, together with Ajapong, must be put to strict proof. That one I agree. Abu Junako is crying meh. Here on this platform, Abu Junako will tell John Mahama is the most corrupt president we've ever had under the Fourth Republic. Today, you are being cited, allegedly, and you are all over the place in 6s and 7s. That is how it feels if you don't have evidence to show. But you see, the police can invite all these people. They may arrive and say, well, we don't have evidence. But that doesn't end the matter. Those who have been defamed have the opportunity.
Exactly. And that's where I want us to, you see, there's the civil side and then there's the part where the police is coming in. And that's what I want us to dwell on. Because A+ has been invited or was invited. He didn't go. The point is, was he even compelled to go? Obviously, there's no complaint, properly so-called, no complainant, properly so-called. So on what basis are you even going to hold A+?
Can I?
No, just a minute. Let me.
That's a quick answer.
Okay.
Because you, like you said in the beginning of this particular segment, you had said that the president had said that he has issued instructions to the security agencies. So obviously, and the instructive word was any allegation.
Back up with evidence.
Any allegation on corruption must be investigated.
Right.
Okay, now the investigation would include getting that evidence to find out whether indeed this is a proper issue of allegation or this is just somebody who's shouting foul or stuff like that. Okay, so as far as the commander-in-chief has given instructions, I think the police are obliged to do that investigation.
Well, that's fine, I get that, but there's also, there's also the criminal procedure, which has there's a certain way you go about it. And that's where that's why I'm raising this issue about, yes, the president may have, if you like, it's an executive order of sorts, but on what basis would you hold or insist that a person like A+, who here has made such wild allegations, should come and give any, come and make a statement or come and be questioned? He's not a suspect in any case, is he? No charges have been leveled against anybody. There's no formal complaint, nothing whatsoever. It's just something that was posted on Facebook.
But Abna, why would somebody make an allegation of corruption if he doesn't expect that the issue would be investigated and addressed? I mean, if indeed you are a patriotic citizen.
Well, I mean, that is appealing to the conscience of people, which, I mean, in most
cases.
And
I guess that's the point.
That's what I'm trying to...
That's the point that Abraham has been making, that His Excellency the President has said that allegations of corruption must be based on right evidence. And he's repeated that His Excellency President John Mahama said that. He's repeated that that was the position of President Ivan Atta-Mills of blessed memory.
Right.
He's repeated that that's the position of President J.A. Kufuor. So as far as that is concerned, I believe that every patriotic citizen, okay, should be doing the right thing. Okay,
Very
so,
well.
so on
Let's
that
see
point, I
that
think
whether
he's
this
right.
comes into the category of a patriotic citizen or a
No,
whistleblower or whatever.
we are enjoined by the Constitution to assist the security agencies when crime is committed. Indeed, citizens' arrest
Yes.
is allowed.
Sure.
And so you can, after your arrest, you hand over to the police. Now, if the police finds that you are a material witness to ensure unraveling a crime, they can invite
will
you.
call you, but this-
And they can invite you to come and assist the police
But this
to
is
unravel.
putting the cart before the horse. In this particular instance, that's why I'm trying to
No,
get
they are
the sense.
investigating crime.
Which crime?
That
Alleged
there's
crime.
alleged crime. That there's corruption. Some people, public officials, have engaged in acts of corruption. And they know that, or they are aware that A+ can be of assistance to them because it was on his Facebook page that these allegations started.
So we are taking that as a formal complaint.
So, no, for now, they are investigating. No complainant. But look, the police has power. They don't need, it's not always that the police must be prompted. On their own motion, they can start investigations.
Investigate a crime
alleged
based
crime,
on
yes.
a charge. But here you have nothing.
No. Police now can go to abolition without anybody saying that there's wrong happening there. And they investigate.
Investigate what? When there's nothing happening.
Oh,
But it's the
why?
allegation that they are trying
Exactly.
to
That's
investigate.
why I'm
They
trying
can,
to say.
police, don't they go to is it anybody who reports to the police that they should go to the beach shore to arrest people? They to go.
Right.
So-
So, then
so
there's the
I'm
other
not-
side, which is the people themselves, the people who are affected, could take up
That's the
an
civil
action.
side, yeah.
Exactly, the
Yeah.
civil side.
Yeah, after that,
which they
after
could do.
they
Yeah,
feel
but
that there's nothing they
I'm
Quickly,
struggling.
and then I move
I'm
to-
struggling to appreciate where you're coming from. That on what mandate is the police?
No, I'm
carrying
just
out?
you see, the point is this: Mr. Amaliba, in his at the last point of his submission, raised a point about the fact that both persons here, you're looking at A+ and Mr. Kennedy Japan, have refused to respond to the police's invitation, and that's where I'm going to.
Well,
So right now that they fail to respond, what would be the consequences of that?
Well, I'm not too sure that they have failed to appear.
As far as
I
we
mean,
know, they haven't reported to the police.
Well, I'm not too sure. I think I read somewhere that Honorable Kennedy had met with the police, and I believe that I read somewhere else that A+ was saying that his lawyer wasn't available. So I believe that the police are going to, I mean, the police are working with their own terms and references, and I'm not, until such time that the police comes to say that these two individuals are not cooperating with them, I think they'll be jumping the gun. But again, let me repeat the fact that His Excellency the President is the Commander-in-Chief. Okay, and the Commander-in-Chief has issued instructions that every allegation of corruption, please do investigate.
Sure.
Okay, and so, I mean, they cannot investigate without listening to the people that have made those allegations. And I think that, like Abraham is saying, I mean, we do not need a complainant to write on paper, and that would supersede the instructions that the Commander-in-Chief has given.
Not at all.
The instructions,
No, not at all.
The
Yeah.
instructions of the Commander-in-Chief are clear, and he has made that public. Okay, so the police are working based on the instructions that the Commander-in-Chief has given.
Right.
I mean, obviously, if these allegations that have been made don't hold any water, then the police will come out and say that these allegations don't hold water.
Very well. Let me
I thought your
quickly move
point
on to-
would have been, how do we stop such
And
frivolous
that
allegations?
was the first question I asked.
Okay,
That was the
okay.
first
So,
question
and I
asked.
think that on that point, the civil route is available.
That's fine.
Where
Let-
you can
quickly,
slap a
let me
heavy
move
fine
to-
on the person, and it'll get the person,
Right.
you get people to talk a bit more responsibly.
and act
But it's
in a more
interesting-
restrained manner.
It's interesting that my brother Abraham was saying that he was shocked at these allegations, and then he's taking
I know,
he's
let
taking
me
a different
quickly
tone.
move
I
on
mean-
to Prof, because Prof has been quiet for some time now. Prof Jidonu, let me hear you on this. What do you make of all this?
Well, I really want to take it from the point of view of the president. When I heard that, I didn't watch most of what he said, but that tail part of it, when he said that I'm going to make sure that anybody in my government who is corrupt or who mess around, the police will investigate them and they'll be punished. You see, for the president to say that at this early stage of his government means that something might be going on, that he thought that he must stamp it out or send out a warning. If you mess around in my government, first, Nana Akufo-Addo has a reputation that we all know. Okay? Some people may disagree. As one of our leaders who is incorruptible.
We agree.
Now,
How do you...
now,
I mean, what the prophet says is that we can't be able to agree.
What has he done to fight corruption? Even his own party, when they were allegations of corruption by Afoko,
Gentlemen,
they had
please,
to ask him
floor.
out.
Mr. Maleba,
He
please.
told people not to go to the police to talk about the MPP
Prof is
matters.
on the floor, allow him. Prof,
No.
please carry on.
so also is former President Rawlings.
That's his view.
Former President Rawlings, we perceive him as somebody who is incorruptible. If you recall, even during the last days of Rawlings' government, he had been castigating his ministers. Okay? If you mess around, if you're corrupt, I'll do something about it. Sometimes when you hear Rawlings speak, when he was in the country, that you may think, well, is he not the leader of the cabinet, of the people who may or may not be corrupt? Because he disassociates himself with his ministers who are involved. So, Nana Akufo-Addo and President Rawlings, the former President Rawlings, they gave her that impression that they are incorruptible. And I'm sure Nana Akufo-Addo want to protect that image. That, okay, I have already established my credential that I'm incorruptible. Nobody have brought any corruption against me. I've been in politics for so many, many years. Okay? Now, if you are in my government, any of my appointee, you mess around, I'll do something about it. For me, that was very instructive. Now, politics is a super game of promises and expectations. Well, when he said that, I was wondering, would his people allow him to do that? You see, no government in this country has been or will be corruption-free. There are always some guys around, given the nature of our politics, the amount of money they must spend to come to government, a lot of people hanging around, there's always some element of corruption. So I just thought I wish the president all the best. That if after his tenure of office, probably we might catch a lot of corrupt appointees, or if he didn't catch any of them, then can we conclude that his government was completely corruption-free? So I wish him all the best. I want to look at it from the point of view of the bigger perspective. Not only these two deputy chief of staff case. Okay, A+, Kenyan, Japan, they make accusation. Now they have not shown up here, they will show up. I don't want us to lose track of the bigger issue, just concentrate on these two. For all you know, 2 or 3 days can say, oh, no evidence. That's the end of the story. No, 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 no. It's bigger than that. The president is saying, all my appointees, so long as I remain, he said, if you continue, don't rock my boat. I am the captain of this boat. Don't mess around. And I said, this is a man putting his foot down at the very beginning. He might have heard, he might have sensed that there are some people who may be thinking of doing some undercover thing somewhere. And he's warning them. So let's take Nana Addo on his word. Let's watch him. Let's watch his ministers. Let's watch his appointees and see whether at the end of the day, he will actually carry it through. For me, that's important. If he managed to do that, that would be great. Because every government sees independence. Okay, the leaders, Nkrumah was not a corrupt man. Because nobody really, they leveled things, but nobody found evidence. Atami was not. Okay, some few people, some of them were. The evidence is there. So I think that let's look at the bigger perspective on Nana. Now, I will wish that Nana Akufo-Addo's appointees take note from this thing that the president said. That if they are thinking of getting corrupt in one way or the other, they must do it in a very clever way. Otherwise, the chief of staff is saying that I'm going to do something about it. But I really don't think that his people are going to allow him. No.
His people are going to allow him to.
They are not going to. You see, no.
His people are not going to allow him to.
Don't interrupt me, sir.
Yeah, just make it clear
You see,
because I didn't get it.
Look at politics in Ghana. Do you really believe, Abena, that after the 4-year reign of Nana Akufo-Addo, there will not be corrupt him in his government? You really believe?
Can I?
No, let me finish. I am making a point. I know Minister, you're going to want to respond. This Ghana, I just saying, look, let's be realistic. The commander-in-chief said that if you do it, I'm going to do something about it. That is what he said. You see, Ross Perron said, I pick the jockeys, I allow my people pick the horses to ride. The jockeys won't ride the horse. I will pick the horse, the jockeys, and then allow my appointees or people to pick the horses to ride. Now, Nana, I think he's picking the jockeys. Is that correct? He allowed his ministers appointees to pick the horses. There was even cases that, again, allegations that some of his appointees have promised some of the people that when he becomes so and so, he will help them. And some people say that they went there, they get all these allegations. The point I'm making about the nature of Ghanaian politics, it will be a miracle that by the end of the day, and let nobody tell me that, no, it's not going to happen. If it is not going to happen, why is the President Fund is so important? That at their party conference, Nana Akufo-Addo was not talking to Ghanaians. He's talking to his party members. That if you dare mess around in my government, corrupt, I'm going to do something about it. Because he knows that there is a possibility that that is going to happen, and he's trying to warn them. But I just said that, let's wait. If his people allow him to carry out this money, that would be great. But given the nature of Ghanaian politics, it will be a miracle. So nobody tell me that, look, it's going to happen. Now, come on.
Very well. Let me move to, just a minute. Mr. Joe Jackson, quickly. I mean, Prof's was rather, I mean, more of a speculation, you know, so, and I don't expect you to necessarily respond to that because that is speculative.
I have sworn an oath.
And you promise not to
protect the
public
presidency,
purse and everything.
Okay?
Very well.
And so whenever there's such an allegation, by the
but
fact
that wasn't an allegation. That was only speculative.
He's saying that his those people would not allow him, to run a corruption-free government.
And then I qualify that.
Is that the statement that you made?
Honorable, I think
if you had given me the opportunity, by then I would have finished.
30 seconds.
Okay. I think that we all know that His Excellency the President spoke extensively during the campaign, and we are also aware that a bill has been sent to Parliament for the establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. So, I mean, I think that you can be skeptical about what will happen. Obviously, His Excellency the President cannot control everybody who would want to be corrupt. But he has stated clearly that he's not going to tolerate this. Right. And indeed, Prof, miracles do happen.
Very well. So on that miraculous note, I move to Mr. Joe Jackson.
The style of leadership, based on the kind of leadership that we have.
Mr. Jackson,
I'm happy.
Let me move quickly to Mr. Jackson to have Mr. Jackson's views, please. Let me hear you.
I'm happy that you had said yourself that His Excellency the President is perceived to be one of the most incorruptible
I think we've gone through that already.
Mr. Jackson, carry on.
So let us not be making sad wild statements.
I have a slightly different perspective to all this, right? And my worry is this. We need more good people in politics. We need people who are honest, and if you look, if I just think back to the headline in the graphic, with the pictures of these three people published on what is now turning to be on a very spurious allegation. I worry that, again, what we are doing is we are giving the family and other members and other people, of people who are potentially going to go into politics, and say, this is what happens if you go into politics, and you should not be there. And that worries me. And it worries me because on both sides of the divide, we have created all these attack dogs who can go and make these allegations and get away with it and impugn the reputations without any proof. And that worries me. In this whole, it's not even so much as will there be corruption in the NPP government or not. I'm saying, should we do this to our politicians, where we can make an allegation with no proof? I really take exception to Honorable Kennedy Ejepon's allegation. It seemed very personal. I submitted a bid and I did not get it. and makes an allegation against a minister who's not even supervising the process. That has me worried. I worry about A+, who says that people take bribes in the presidency to get access to the president. I worry about that. If it's not true, it should be condemned in the most. I'm running out of words here. It's despicable. If all we are doing is making it harder for good people to go into politics, because these allegations go, and then they're going the same way now. They're backing off. Nothing is going to happen, and then the attack dogs will retreat until the next time when they come out again. And it should be condemned.
I didn't hear you when they were accusing NDC.
Listen,
Mr. Maliba,
Mr. Maliba, we're talking about a specific.
Really
and I said I condemn it on both sides of the divide. Because now that you are in opposition, there are just similar allegations being made without any proof.
Ghana.
Right? And it does worry me. Maliba, let me remind you that we've sat on the same platform and had allegations against our Minister of Finance about corruption concerning the
2.25 billion bonds.
Yes, without any.
The minority provided evidence. They've given evidence. They've sent evidence everywhere, even outside Ghana. They've provided.
And where has but where has that ended?
But is it the minority again? You are asking somebody to send the matter to court. The court is not acting. You are asking the person.
All I'm saying is this:
it's not
that let's not drag these people's reputations in the mud. I look at the front page and I see the Minister of Communication.
His boss.
And I didn't unfortunately I hadn't heard of the allegation before. So I pick up the newspaper and I said, oh my God, what's happening? For better or for worse, I read it, do some detailed analysis and come to the conclusion that
it's frivolous.
This is frivolous. But I worry about all the others who read this, her enemies, and other people,
her family,
etc. And what they would think. And it worries me that we do the same thing. Then we sit down and say we don't like the quality of our politicians. We don't like the quality of our politicians because we drag them down. I've said my bit.
Very well. I'll take some messages. At this point. I'll bring in viewers and listeners.
And now we can now draw the line and say that, look, going forward, this is the way.
And that is exactly what we are seeking to do.
Both parties have faced the same problem.
Yes, we're moving on. Way forward now. That's what we are looking at. I'll take some messages quickly. And this one is coming from Asiedu-Dartey, where he says the Kenyan Supreme Court decision is in bad taste because in 2007, exactly 10 years ago, we all saw what happened in Kenya, where over 3,000 civilians lost their lives. In fact, I was scandalized upon hearing this news. Okay. Good morning, Abna and your crew. He says, I totally disagree with Abraham Amaliba trying to justify the comment of the Kenyan president. What constitutes a majority? The president and Mr. Amaliba talking about the irregularities or the fraud that has been detected by the competent judges of 6. And I think Mr. Amaliba should raise the bar. That's Maxwell Aburia in Bolgatanga. This one's Michael Nyamiche in Nungwa says, I'm very surprised to hear lawyer Maliba deliberating on the parliamentary candidates. He says, as a lawyer, he must know that without anyone sending the matter to court, there would be no comment on it. Only serial callers should be forgiven for making such comments. Now, good morning, Abna, and to your panelists, especially to Honorable George Anda. This is why many Ghanaians decide to give their mandate to His Excellency Nana Addo and his vice, Dr. Bawumia, to fight corruption by asking the institutions to wake up from their slumber and investigate all corruption leveled against government officials. This is Buzua in Gushegu. Isaac Conlan in Tamale says, good morning, Abna and your panelists. In as much as I agree with the assertion that the Supreme Court's ruling on the Kenyan election is a victory for democracy, I fear for their future. The re-election is most likely going to be characterized by lots of violence because the people are becoming more apprehensive over the elections. Let's go on to look at this one. Alhaji Hamza in Pikram says, in fact, I can't think fine. I can't think madness. What has the rerun of Kenyan elections got to do with President Mahama? The question I want to ask this morning is, what was President Mahama? I want to ask this morning is that, was President Mahama the only election observer mission or observer in Kenya. In fact, some journalists from some media houses in Ghana should bow their heads in shame, and I can assure them that no weapon fashioned against President Mahama shall succeed. Okay. Ex-President Mahama can't be trusted. He declared Kenya's election replete with, I'm not sure I get this. I'll move on. Incompetent Commonwealth Commission chair led by JM caused Kenyan election results nullified. Indeed, seriously, we should I mean, come up with much more, you know, decorous or decent language. This isn't, I don't think JM's or the Commonwealth Commission observation mission declared anything in respect of the Kenyan election results. Let's be circumspect in this regard, please. Abner, frankly speaking, the Electoral Commissioner and the international observers were to be blamed. It tells you that Kenya deportee has been vindicated. Mr. Peter Makmenu, Ayiko, okay, so he's a Kenyan deportee. The NDC will start pointing fingers at you. May the Almighty God save the people, the Kenyan people. Okay, let me take this last one and then we go for a break. Al Hassan, Wanana in Kenya, in WA says, the Kenya's free, fair and transparent election became a laughingstock in the country after a historic Supreme Court decision that nullified the results. It's embarrassing to the observers and the monitors. We'll take a break. At this point, when we come back, I'll read some more messages and we'll continue with our conversations. You're watching Newday Saturday edition. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Newday Saturday edition, live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, also streaming live on the internet at 3news.com, on our Facebook page, TV3 News, and on Ghana Web. We will move back to the panel to wrap up on the conversation about the resignation of the former Deputy Agric Minister and then proceed to look at the SSNIT $72 million software saga. But I'll take some messages quickly before I move to Mr. Maliba. This is Ilyasu in Salaga. He says the resignation of the Deputy Agric Minister should be a wake-up call to public officials. They should be decorous in their utterances. They should learn from the fall of the Mahama administration when people in there declared themselves the masters of indecency in language. That's Ilyasu. For His Excellency the President referring corruption allegations to the CID to investigate, it is a clear indication that the President is ready to fight corruption. And on the Kenya issue, the Kenyan Supreme Court has done justice to the rule of law, and the rest of African countries will use this as a test case. That's Collins in Awoshi. Musa Abatua in Kumasi says, Abna, let's clap for the Nana Bawumia government because they have set the record. This is the first time in the history of the Fourth Republic. And 7 months into office, corruption allegations have taken center stage to the extent that the seat of government, the Flagstaff House, is affected with corruption. Government approach in fighting corruption is just cosmetic. Why is the president failing to let EOCO invade I believe you're saying the premises or the residence of the two deputy chiefs of staff? Ghana deserves better. Thanks for your messages. Please keep them coming through. We'll be reading as we go. Mr. Maliba, let me hear you on this, the resignation of Mr. Honorable Kwetu.
Well, I am not, indeed, let me start by saying that, once again, how did we get to this point? I thought that we were told that the NDC appointees were arrogant, did not speak well, and so they were voted out of power. Now, we have heard on countless occasions how government appointees have made comments that has affected the sensibilities of the people of this country. You remember the whining comment when a deputy minister insulted diasporans as being whiners? You remember the statement that Ghanaians are difficult to rule? And now, this statement by the Deputy Agric Minister. And I've heard people say that, look, this is the first time that somebody has resigned. And he's added that, and has resigned and have not been sent to the Flagstaff House. The NDC has a better record of ministers resigning. Muntaka resigned when indeed there was no evidence to show that he had used money to buy Chinchinga. He resigned. He was not sent to the Flagstaff House. Jifa Ativo resigned when there's no evidence to show that she was connected to the bus branding. She resigned. She was not sent to the Flagstaff House. You have Kobna Donko, the energy power minister, resigned. He was not sent to the Flagstaff House. So where is this Flagstaff House business coming in that people resign and they are sent to the Flagstaff House? We have a better record for people resigning on principle. Now, on this minister, is it true or it's not true that fall army worms have invaded farms in the north? It's true. Is it wrong for the farmers to call for or request for compensation? Was it not in this country that when there was a flu that affected birds, chicken, we asked farmers to destroy them and then we compensated them for it? Can't we do the same thing for crop farmers? And if they are requesting for it, does it warrant for a minister to use those despicable words on farmers up north? What wrong have they done? And this is a person who has lived with them for 27 years. The people openly embraced you. They didn't hurt you. They provided security for you. And this is the way you can pay them. This head that we have also has a processing machine. It's not only computers that have processing machines. This head. It's not everything that you perceive, that you say. You need to process it. And so, for me, his resignation was the best for him because, can you imagine if he had continued to be a deputy minister? How was he going to relate to the farmers up north? Then he was going to be the farmers, minister for farmers down south. So, deputy minister for farmers down south. Because I'm sure if he went to the north to meet farmers, nobody would come out to meet him because they felt offended by that. So, somebody has said that Akufo-Addo's ministers need to be given training in communication. I say no. They don't need that training. Most of the things that they say comes from their heart. Out of the abundance of their heart, they speak. Whether training or not, this is the way they perceive people to be. You do not see a section of Ghanaians, and what you can tell them is to use those despicable words. I don't want to repeat them because they are my people. I don't want to repeat them. And so what has happened is a clear indication that people would not allow ministers, persons in authority to look down upon them. That was a response that came from the people up north and the farmers. Now, the minister has resigned. What I think is that the people up north should take solace in the fact that they have been able to make their point forcefully, and he has resigned on his own volition. Based on that, I want the people up north, the farmers, to forgive him. We are one nation, one people. He alone is the one who made that statement. He's fall on his own axe. Let's forgive him and move on as a nation. But the government should also listen to the farmers. In his response, he said that they have reports that farms are not being destroyed or the distraction is not that much. What prevented him? He has been living with the people. What prevented him to just take his V8 and go back to the people and find out for himself whether what the farmers are saying is true, than to label them with those words? Are we going to remain armchair ministers in our air-conditioned offices when there are reports coming from the ground? If your technical men are giving you a report, but those on the ground also give you another report, what do you do as a minister? You travel there and see the things for yourself. It is because he failed to travel to see the things for himself, that's how he came to that conclusion about the people. I'm sure if he had gone, he would have had a different perception about them. But I think that these are all lessons for a young government. He's here also as a minister. He had his own gaffe when he was campaigning, when he attacked women, he attacked
well, you're here, so you respond when he's
so
brought it
I
up.
think that it is a clear case of the ministers knowing what to say at what time. If not, people are now up in arms and they will not allow you to run them down. This is what has happened to this minister.
Very well. I mean, moving forward, definitely
can I-
I'll give you the opportunity. But I mean, just to sum up, I think as a nation, we should learn lessons from both sides. Because in your introduction, you said you wouldn't want to make reference to, previous incidents or not. We do know, and indeed, the people will make their own judgment. But moving on, I believe the whole nation, both sides, NPP, NDC, whichever, have learned lessons. And then we're going to act appropriately. But he's made mention about something concerning you. And
I would have expected that you would have called him to order.
But you were here, and I knew you would respond to it. That is why.
No, hold on. Can I express myself? I would have expected that you'd have called him to order with that reference that he made. And if I have to call him to order, then so be it.
No,
I
would have done that.
Okay, then
you
do
just
that.
came
Then do
in.
that. Then do that. Let me come in
is,
after.
He has made a comment.
So you do that. So he has made a comment on the platform where you are the host.
Exactly. So allow
okay,
me
so
to do my
I want
job.
you to listen to your.
Allow me
Okay,
to do my
I'll allow
job.
you to do your job.
The point is, he made reference to you having made a comment during your elections. He didn't say exactly what those comments were.
He did. He said I attacked women.
Yes, he said he attacked women, but to what extent? And I said you were here.
So he's allowed to make such a statement on your program? So be fine.
He made reference to a fact, and then you are here. I'm saying facts that was put out.
What?
No,
was
honorable. The point is, you are here, and so I'll give you the opportunity to respond. And that's what I'm doing.
A fact is something that is based on truth.
He made reference to something that was put out during the elections. Didn't that happen? That people said that.
So I was
whether it's true or not, you are here to respond. And that's why I said you were here. If you were not here, I would have done what I would have had to do. But you are here, so I'm giving you the opportunity to speak to that.
Abraham knows he's telling a categorical lie. I never attacked women, and I will never ever attack women. I expect Abraham to be more honest and to be more balanced in his statements. Okay, I'll end it at that.
Very well. I think we can move on and look at the SSNIT saga. We have just about 32 minutes to wrap up on the show, and so we can do that, in that time. I will start with Mr. Jackson. This issue is unfolding. It's a developing story, really. Every week we hear new details, and the more details we get, the more worrying we become, the more, disturbed we become. Now, this week, it's emerged that the manager in charge of IT I would use alleged because, he is threatening to go to court in that regard. So that his degrees are fake. And this is a man who was to guide the whole process, the acquisition of this software. Little wonder that we find ourselves in the situation we find ourselves now, right? So, question is, SSNIT, given the kind of institution SSNIT is, you would expect, higher standards in terms of recruitment, in terms of procurement, of, whatever facilities they want to, procure. Now, here we are with the situation. And you're talking about monies, huge sums of monies, pensioners' monies. How do we get SSNIT, in a better position? And I'm saying this because of the historical antecedent about SSNIT. Every time there's a change of government, and indeed, even when there's no change of government, we do hear of scandals. How the investment funds or how the funds are being invested in different ways, that raises concerns and all of that. How do we deal with this situation?
I don't know where to start from because I have so many opinions on this matter. First of all, I have my own background in IT, and so I would say my first reaction that SSNIT spent $72 million on software and other related things, my jaw just dropped.
It is found not to be fit for purpose.
It's humongous. I don't know how to describe it. SSNIT is not the biggest institution in this country. There are other institutions that are bigger than SSNIT. And yet, look at where we are. Even on this issue of this guy with the IT director with the alleged fake degrees, I asked her, so who recruited him? Where was HR? Who's taking responsibility for not checking his degrees? But I want to go beyond that. See, the truth of the matter is this. SSNIT is not fit for purpose. Forget these scandals. These are symptoms of the bigger malaise that we have. What do we have? We have an institution that takes the contributions from all of us and is supposed to give me some sort of social security in my old age or upon death. What does it do? It doesn't do that. It treats me like a client. When it's a scheme and I'm a member, I'm a shareholder of SSNIT. We all are. When you enter a SSNIT institution, they say a client service. Forgive me, it should be shareholder service. I'm a shareholder. You ask for information and they throw you off. And unfortunately, we have this situation. The government is the biggest employer and the biggest payer into this pot. And the government uses SSNIT as its own private piggy bank, where it can dip into it, and then the board and the executives don't even bother to give me any sort of return, no sort of statement on what my value is. Think about it. If SSNIT was a private investment company, would have taken them to court. They would have yanked their licenses like institutions that licenses have been taken over in the last few weeks. We should be looking at, should SSNIT even exist in this norm? I lived in Nigeria for a few years. I saw them disband the equivalent of SSNIT, and I saw them put in private institutions that are providing the same service.
So you are for the privatization?
I'm for the privatization of that whole institution. Then let me put my money into the institution that I believe serves me best. Because now I am bound by law to give my money to SSNIT. And SSNIT is just chopping the money and reducing the value of the money. The question I have to ask myself is this. If the reports we are hearing about the fund being insolvent are true, will I get a pension? Will I get a pension? And that's what all of us must ask. So it's not just about $72 million down the drain. It's about another report of $150 million for a housing estate. It's about the Fortis, the sale of a merchant bank to Fortis, and the lack of due diligence, which has reduced their shareholding and their value and their valuation. And it goes on and on and on and on. And all of us have to ask, I don't actually believe in the current audit, etc. Why? Because it can't be reformed from within. Those who are in charge of the audit, etc., are beneficiaries of the current status quo. We need somebody from outside to look at SSNIT, in my opinion, disband it and replace it with some privatized set of institutions which will serve the workers of this country better.
Right. Prof, Let's talk about privatizing SSNIT. I think it's been coming up in recent times, given how SSNIT is being managed over the years, looking at, you know, the kind of investments that it's engaged in and all of that. And now, within the context that we are discussing the SSNIT issue, you're looking at a failed due diligence in terms of even procuring the software, because you realize that this software is not fit for purpose. And that's how come the initial contract price has ballooned to what we are hearing now. And then you're looking at the hiring of the manager responsible for IT, the director, right. Now, this issue coming up, again, going to the kind of due diligence that, you know, SSNIT engaged in. Now we're asking questions. If this is how they do their due diligence, what kind of due diligence would they be doing in respect of investments, which has to do with pensioners' funds?
Yes, we all wonder, actually. Not only the employees are contributing money, the employers contribute money. As an employer in this country, as per law, if you don't pay your employees anything, they can lock you up. So employers may have a better use of that money. They might have put it somewhere for their employees to benefit because they value their work, but they gave it to SSNIT. So certainly the employers also expect SSNIT to manage this money well. As you see down here, I don't know whether SSNIT actually report to us about how they manage our money. I don't know. If we are truly shareholders, as shareholders, we must be told every year, we contributed this N number of cities, and we invested this portion of that here, and we got these returns here, and this is how we are doing. I don't know. I will not be following SSNIT very much. We just contribute money to it. If they are not be giving that report, then certainly it means that we are all in the dark. We don't know exactly, we just put money in the pot, we don't know how to use it.
So the point is it's a trust, so there are trustees who are supposed to be doing all this, you know, they have that fiduciary responsibility to the beneficiaries.
That's correct.
But apparently
they don't. What? Is it in their rule book that they must be telling us what they are doing for money? If it's not there, they must put it there. Now, coming back to this software business, it's not only SSNIT. You see a lot of, some time ago, it was the judicial service. There was some software, at the time was it Salome? The finance ministry or something. I recall that the software, the cost of the software does not really warrant, what the claim is going to do. I think a lot of the public sector organizations, some private sector organizations do go into this software purchase without knowing exactly what they're doing. You see, the IT area, if you don't know very much about it, I can sell you a piece of software now for 10 Ghana cedis, which somebody can come and sell it, the same software for you for probably 1 million Ghana cedis. The 10 Ghana cedis make you do a better job, especially if you don't know what you're doing. So in the UN system, who actually procure a lot of software for their agency all over, what they do, they employ another consultant, independent, who will look at this software thing for you, evaluate it, giving what you want it to do, and then advise you that you buy this software for this money because you do the work. Because I'm an expert, I know how this software thing works. I don't know how to do it in the public sector here. The IT director of the organization is not the guy who should be buying software for the organization. It should be advised by somebody else. And that somebody else may take the responsibility if the software is not doing what it's supposed to do. But what do we do here? All the big organizations, they just go to the market, some smart software guy will come down, do some good PowerPoint presentation, show you the report the system is going to produce, bam, they sign check. And then later on they find out that it means sometimes, even the software they set to them, they can't be operated. They can't be operated. So I think this is a wake-up call, not only for SSNIT, but for all the big organizations, including the banks. Yeah? When you go to the bank today, they say the system is down. Do you know why the system is down? Who developed the system? Who bought the system? Well, is the system always coming down, or is the people who are running it, they don't know what they're doing? So you see, everything is run by IT. Okay? So what I said earlier on, IT is one thing that you don't go for it if you're going to bungle it. It might be better for you to continue with the manual system. So this money that SSNIT is claimed to have lost on this software, I think a lot of public sector organizations and some private sector organizations also fall foul of that, only that we didn't know about it. Now, as to the director's supposedly fake degree, I don't see the complication here. To be frank with you, I read his statement. Now, is it that he produced the certificate and it's fake, or he didn't produce the certificate?
Produced and found out to be fake.
Very good. We can all check that out. Let them put the certificate on the web. Certain certificate was issued by a particular institution. We had a story some time ago, people paying $5,000 to go and buy a degree. And when they ask them, so people are keen to do it, so we also do it. Whoever buys PhD, I don't know. Certainly, you don't buy PhD. You do PhD, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. We've all done that. You see, this country have come to a stage that this fake degree thing is all over in the system. If the guy said, look, I got my degree from a reputable tertiary institution, no problem. What is the name of the institution? We can go on the website. Even these days, when you go to an institution, they can point you to a particular
Those
site.
checks have been done, and it's on that basis that he was fired by the board.
That institution has failed to is not existing anymore.
Yes.
The institution doesn't exist.
Yes, it was a fraudulent institution.
Very good. You see,
according to the information we read.
okay, I don't know the details, but the point I'm making, this one is the easiest one.
It's easily
It's very easy. It's very
verifiable,
for us to verify. So I don't know what the hula balu is all right. He also
Well, it speaks to the due diligence conducted, or which wasn't conducted.
it was not conducted. That is clear. That's clear. That's why they recruited him. He worked in other places. It's very easy. It's very easy in this country for people to show up with some certificate.
But we need to take a break,
Yes.
so please, I would have to cut you here respectfully. But we'll take a break. We'll be back shortly. You're watching Newday Saturday edition. See you shortly. Welcome back. This is Newday Saturday edition, and we'll be wrapping up here very soon. So we'll go back to the panel to look some more at the SSNIT $72 million US dollars software deal. We would be turning now to, I think I'll go to Mr. Maliba next. And here I want us to look at the representation of the board, right? And it includes, let me start by saying, we have some organized unions now calling for an interrogation or an inquiry into this saga. But it turns out that they have representations on the board. And so which means that every step of the way they were in the know. Now the question then is, whose interests were they representing whilst on the board? Because obviously there's news out there that all of this happened.
They're on the board, and they are on the board of trustees.
Right.
The board of directors and the board of
Exactly.
trustees. And today they are asking.
Exactly, for an inquiry into that. I find it very, it's quite intriguing. What were they doing whilst on the board?
Well,
Because we haven't heard anything about they coming out back then to, raise red flags about this whole transaction.
so this boils down to right holders and duty bearers, how they relate. If you are a duty bearer, you are supposed to discharge your duties towards those who appointed you to be there. If you are a rights holder, you're also supposed to hold accountable the people who you sent there. What happened to this relationship? How come that you have elected people to go and represent you on a board or on a trusteeship, and it turned out that they are not bringing back to you information that is required? And I'm sure those who also appointed them there are not naive to know that they are supposed to be asking them to provide reports. So it's a failure of this relationship that has caused this. But for me, this whole SSNIT matter, I am excited that the media is putting sunshine on it. What I am only disappointed in is that there are similar of such issues under this regime, and we are not hearing the same way that the media is showing light on this. I thought that if you are out to fight corruption, you fight it irrespective of where you find it. Just as how...
But Mr. Member, are you suggesting that the media is being selective in its work?
I am saying that the kind of light that have been shown on this Senate matter is not the same as compared to the boss issue, as compared to the Ken Bond issue.
I mean,
I expected the same level of sunshine, the same level of attention, so that we don't make it profitable for some group of people to engage in what they are doing while others are being exposed. In this matter, I am all out for an investigation. He rightly indicated that the president will select the jockeys, but it's the jockey who will also select the horse. When the president appoints you there, it's no longer the duty of the president to hold you to be to discharge your fiduciary duties. You know that if you are on a board, because of your own reputation, you would have to rise above board. I'm not by this saying that those persons on the board are culpable, because investigations are going on. But I will not for once sit here and want to shield anybody.
Mr. Melba,
I know that
Iyoko
is investigating.
Honorable.
Let's allow Iyoko to finish his investigations. And if there are charges, I am all out for it.
Very well. I'll move on to Honorable and you talk about it. But specifically, I want us to look about the issue here with borders on willfulness on the part of the board. Because we are told, there's reports out there that contrary to their counsel, who advised them not to go on to do a backdating of the contract, they went ahead. So clearly, there's an element of willfulness on the part of the officers or officials concerned. How do we deal with this then, moving forward?
Well, I'm a bit careful how deep to go into this matter, because I'm aware that Iyoko is carrying out their investigation. I believe that with time there'll be more facts coming out. But in the court of public opinion, based on the information that's been put out there, it clearly seems to suggest that there has been some willfulness in terms of corruption and causing financial loss to the state. I'm quite surprised, let me just keep it as surprise that my brother Abraham would be castigating the media. I thought that the way the rapid press conferences happen these days with the NPP, with the NDC, even when somebody coughs, they want to call a press conference. I would have expected that the right thing that should have been done was that the NDC would have called a press conference on this issue by now. And that is within your own prerogative, it's within your domain. So if you are not calling a press conference on this issue, I mean, on what basis are you asking that the media are throwing too much spotlight on this matter? Let us state the facts. Over the past two regimes, it's been the NDC that has been in power. Okay, the board directors have been very, very high profile people from the NDC. Both board directors are skirting around the issue, and I was suspecting that this is something that should be extremely worrying to the NDC. But that said, as Ghanaians, will not sit down and let this thing happen. Clearly, Iyoko have taken a position. Iyoko are investigating the matter. It's even more, is worse to find out that somebody that has been employed to manage their IT systems and infrastructure hasn't got the right qualifications on that. I'll not talk too much on that because Prof has stated that this is the simplest of the issue, and I'm happy that the current board have dismissed him. Okay, based on the facts of the matter, because the degree clearly is not a legitimate degree, and he hasn't got the competence to handle that. But why are we here? Okay,
unfortunately, we don't have much time to
the
go
government,
into that.
The government has invested in
me.
setting up the National Information Technology Agency, NITA.
Right.
NITA's role is to make sure that whenever there's IT infrastructure being undertaken by the government, NITA is first consulted.
All the departments, agencies, and ministries.
Exactly, they are first consulted. Okay, and so why wasn't NITA consulted? Why wasn't NITA playing the key role? If we had taking this issue to NITA, which NITA would have given the right advice. So, I mean, let us make sure that we give the baker our flour to bake the bread for us, okay? But certainly what is happening in SSNIT is very worrisome. Everybody that's contributing towards our pensions should be worried, and I'm happy that the current board are acting swiftly on this matter, and then it shows that change has come, and we are not going back into those old days.
Great. All too soon, we have to bring conversations with.
We're not talking about free SHS.
No, we can't. We don't have that time, unfortunately. But thank you so much, viewers and listeners. No, thanks, viewers and listeners, for your contributions. We do appreciate them. Thanks to the panel, Mr. Joe Jackson, Mr. Abraham Amaliba, Professor Clement Jidonu, and the Honorable George Anda. Thank you so much. We'll be back same time next week. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.